Hey everybody, Jason here. Today I'm going to be talking about some guitar basics, kind of guitar 101. If you're new to the instrument and you're trying to pick up a guitar and get started playing just as a hobby or something that you want to be taking up, this is going to be a good video for you to kind of figure out how to get your footing and to kind of topple the overwhelming feeling of picking up a brand new instrument. So first off, we're just going to go very simple. We're going to talk about what parts to a guitar has and sort of some common questions about the guitar, and then we're going to jump into the way that I started to learn how to play guitar when I started teaching myself, and how I was able to progress through it. So we'll do all that real quick. First thing, when we're looking at a guitar, we want to know what all of the parts of the guitar are. We want to know what everything is called and how everything is set up. So first off, this is an acoustic guitar. This guitar also has the capability to be an electric guitar if you plug it in. It has a little pickup on the inside of the sound hole and has a battery that powers that pickup. So this guitar would be classified as an acoustic electric guitar. Now, for the most part, I play it typically just as an acoustic guitar. An electric guitar is usually a solid body guitar. It doesn't need a sound port since it plugs in through an amplifier. That being said, some acoustic guitars will share that sound port with electric guitars if that electric guitar is a full body guitar, which were really common in the 60s and still played in jazz a lot of the time. So when we look at our guitar, we have some fundamental parts. The first is the body of the guitar, which is, as you would expect, the actual largest part of the guitar. It is the body. Right below the body in the middle is the sound port, sound hole. So this is the only thing that keeps the resonating of the guitar allowed. So if you have an acoustic guitar, the main feature of the guitar is it's going to be a guitar that can be played in an open room, won't need any amplification, because the sound from the strings is going to resonate within the sound port into the actual chamber of the body and give you a nice full sound. Besides those two things, the more interesting part of the guitar perhaps could be the neck of the guitar, where all of the frets, which are actually these little individual spaces between the little fret bars are. You have the head of the guitar, which is up at the very tippity top. It's called the head of the guitar because it's the head of the guitar. And then at the very, very top on the head of the guitar, you'll see the little tuning rods, which are going to be the actual devices that you tie the strings into for most acoustic guitars that will help tighten the strings, which change their pitch, which is kind of a conversation for another video, but that's just the basic facts. Your common everyday guitar will have 6 strings. The strings are tuned in a way that is fairly common for most songs, though you can change tuning if you need to. The common tuning for it, going from the lowest string to the highest string, is going to be an E, followed by an A, a D, a G, a B, and an E. I know the lighting's a little tough in this video, and you can't really see a lot of the detail on the guitar strings, but the guitar strings are usually made of several different materials, usually something like copper. You can use up to nylon strings for a lot of different guitars, but most are going to be nickel wound, copper, that kind of stuff are going to be your basic guitar string styles. So in our guitar, one important thing that we're going to be thinking about is when we're playing this bad boy, what are some basic things that we want to be thinking about to just begin playing? When I was learning to play the guitar, I was self-taught entirely up until I was into college and getting my degree. And the one thing that I had help with was an uncle who had played guitar his whole life, who, after my parents bought me my first guitar kind of out of nowhere, gave me a little chord chart that showed me just the basic chords to get started with and learn, what are some basic things you can use to just play some songs you like. Ultimately, that's what most people are interested in, learning to play songs. So when we jump in, the easiest way to do it is just to learn a couple basic chords that help get you through a large number of songs and be sort of a focal point for how do you learn to get through different guitar techniques. So the 3 chords I want to focus on today are going to be 3 very simple chords. You might hear the term power chord, or you might see some power chord fretting techniques that help get through a lot of basic things, but ultimately I've always felt that learning full chords on the guitar is going to be what's best for somebody to begin learning. I've taught all ages of guitar technique. I've taught kids from 5 years old who could barely hold a guitar to adults who were trying to learn, as well as a million friends along the way who've told me they want to learn and asked me to give them a quick lesson. So what I always start everyone with is a simple progression of 3 chords. Those 3 chords are going to be G major, C major, and D major. When you're playing a song, this is going to be a very common pattern that people are going to hear. You're going to be hearing a lot of what would be called the root chord to the 4th chord to the 5th, and back to the root. Now that's music theory that we don't really need to know today, but when you look at how to play songs, that's going to be a really important progression to learn, and these 3 chords are going to be a great way to begin learning how to move around the guitar and how to play different songs you want. So we're going to start off just by learning the G chord. I'm going to walk you through what those chords are, and we're going to look at, how do you start to get your head around switching between those chords, using them in songs. So just to begin with, we're going to look at the fretting of the G chord. Now, fingers are going to be an important layout for a lot of these chords, but they can vary between persons, so you're going to want to do what's comfortable, but ultimately, this is what's always worked for me, so it's what I like to go with. So for the starting G chord, what we're going to do is we're going to take our middle finger and we're going to put it on the 3rd fret, so 3 rows up, right in the middle of that fret, middle towards the end, towards yourself. We're going to push down nice and hard, and then our pointer finger is going to go on the 2nd fret of the string right below it, okay? Now finally in this chord, to make the full thing, all you're going to want to do is take your pinky finger, put it on the high E string, the very, very bottom string, right on the 3rd fret, okay? So with these 3 fingers, all we have to do is hit the strings, and we're going to play our G chord. So that G chord is going to serve as kind of the base of our whole progression that we're going to learn. It is the root of this specific song, the specific key that we're playing in. So this is going to be our G major chord. So again, that's going to be middle finger on the 3rd fret of the lowest string. Next string down, you're going to play with your pointer finger, the 2nd fret of the A string. You're going to leave all the next strings open. You're not going to push down any. You're going to leave all of them just completely wide open to vibrate on their own. And then your pinky is going to push right down on that G chord at the very bottom. The G, which is the 3rd fret of the E string. So that's going to be our G. The next chord we're going to look at is C. This one's a little more difficult. This one's the one that's going to take a little bit more flexibility from your hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our ring finger, and on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, we're going to push right on down. Then with our middle finger, we're going to go 1 string down to the D string. We're going to push down nice and hard on the 2nd fret. And then finally, we're going to skip 1 string, okay, so that G string is going to remain open. And then on the B string, the 2nd to last string, we're going to push down nice and hard with our pointer finger on the 1st fret. So again, that's going to be, you're going to use your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. You use your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. So you're going to skip 1 string, you're going to leave it open. And then with your pointer finger, you're going to push nice and hard down on the 1st fret of the B string, which is the 2nd to last string. The bottom string, the high E string at the very bottom of the guitar is going to be nice and open. It's going to ring out just like that. So that is the C chord. All these chords are going to be written down below, so if you need to look back and see what the fingerings were, you can always look at that as well. The final chord we're going to look at is going to be D. This is another one that's a little tricky when you're first learning it. So with this chord, you're not going to play the first 2 strings on the guitar, which is something that is going to be a little tricky for a lot of beginners when you're learning how to strum, but bear with me for a second while we look at it. So the first string you're going to play is going to be the 3rd string down from the bottom, which is going to be the D string. It's going to be completely open. You're not going to push down anywhere on that. Right below that string, which is G, you're going to push down on the 2nd fret with your pointer finger. Your ring finger is going to push down on the 3rd fret of the B string, the next string down, and then on the final high E string, you're going to take your middle finger and you're going to push nice and hard down on the 2nd fret right below it. So this one's a little tricky just because of the cluster of fingers, but ultimately, once you get it down, it fits pretty nicely. Another alternative way to look at it is you can bar those 3 notes with that 1 finger, push nice and hard down with your middle finger, which is going to get you the same effect. If you choose to do that style, your finger is going to do a little more work. It's going to feel like a little bit more stress on that finger, and your skin will probably hurt at first while you're learning to do it, but it is another way to do it. I prefer this way because it gives you a little more options to move around. So those 3 chords, G, C, and D, are going to be the 3 chords that we're going to look at. Now, when I was learning guitar, how I approached it was just taking those 3 chords and just learning to switch between them. Even within that, you can hear it can make a nice little melody. It's a lot of variation you can do with that. But the key thing is to be able to switch between those chords without really thinking about it. So when you're beginning to learn the guitar, my best tip for beginners is just practice those 3 chords over and over and over and over and over. Let your fingers get used to pushing down nice and hard on the string so it fully resonates out. And then finally, just switch between those chords. So just learn how to It will seem monotonous at first, but once you really get into being able to switch to those chords without having to think about where your fingers are going to go, you're going to be able to switch between a lot of different songs that you probably know and love, and it's going to make you a more flexible player in terms of getting through songs. So that's it for today. That's all we're going to look at. If you're wondering what to go from next, we'll continue talking about different aspects of learning chords and learning guitar in following videos. If you need to reference any of the chords I just listed it out, please check below. I'll have them written out for you guys there. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below, and thank you guys for watching.